if we could, just have a few people, Adam and Aaron and Emily, come up front. They're going to share some of what happened you can sit down. We're going to just have a few minutes to kind of debrief. You come up here to the platform. I know it's uncomfortable. I'm going to ask them a few questions, and they're going to help give a sense of what the trip was like. Many of you have asked about the trip. If you went on the trip, would you just put your hand up? You came up. I didn't want you to have to stand up here for 10 minutes, but yeah, you can talk to any of these people. Some of them have a t-shirt on, some of them didn't. We didn't fully coordinate everything. But anyway, I just want to ask a few questions, and there should be some slides that start playing, and just so you get a sense of what happened during the trip. But the first question I'll ask for Adam is, what did the team do in the Dominican Republic? We know that we all went, but what did we do?
Yeah, so I would answer that in two ways. One is just a little bit about the team. So we had a lot of variety in our team. So we had Blake Channing, who's 4, and then we had folks up into our 60s. We had families, couples with kids, couples without kids, couples with adult kids. We had a single person. We have just a lot of variety, and even where we come from in terms of professionals, stay-at-home moms, high schoolers, and so on. And so we had a lot of variety as a team, and then that allowed us to do a lot of variety of work. And so the work included everything from coaching sports activities and leading sports clinics. We painted in a variety of ways. We just painted walls with a roller, and we also painted beautiful mural and artwork for the school. We did construction. We did just brute force shoveling rocks for hours. And if anybody needs a wheelbarrow master, it's Josh Dennis. He could run miles with a wheelbarrow. We just did physical labor. We did arts and crafts with kids. With my photography background, we taught some kind of art and creativity and photography, a little bit of everything. I probably left some things out, but it was a lot of variety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm probably Emily and Aaron. You can introduce yourself, your name, and that. But what impacted you or surprised you on this trip? How would you answer that?
I'm Emily, and I'm a child that went on the trip.
A Pratt. She's a Pratt of the Pratt
I'm
clan.
A Pratt. Something that impacted me was seeing, especially at church on Sunday, just how they're worshiping, on the other side of the world, they're worshiping the same God and reading the same Bible, which is just cool. A good reminder that no matter where we are, that God's the same. I just thought that was really interesting.
I'm Erin Partain. My husband is Quinn Partain, who also went on the trip. And something that really impacted me was just seeing the fruit of faithfulness and obedience over an extended period of time, kind of specifically looking at the directors, Vic and Leslie Trotwine. They have just given up and sacrificed their time, treasure, and talent for so many years. And it was just really profound to see the fruit of that. I actually went to the DR in high school, and so fast forward now, being just a young adult and going back, it was blown away seeing the generational change that has happened, and hearing the testimonies of the Dominican staff who went to the school when they were a 4-year-old, and now they're actually teaching at these schools and impacting the next generation. And truly that just happened through the faithfulness and not growing weary and doing good, and just the sacrifice that Vic and Leslie has made. It is truly transforming generations, and it was really profound to see.
Mm-hmm. And just in case you don't know the organization, it's called Kids Alive, and we'll probably have some more details in the back in future weeks. There's ways that you can even sponsor children, kids we met there, and ways that you could even, if you don't go to the DR, could really make an impact through sponsoring a child, which we'll talk about in future weeks. So the next question I have is, what is something that the Lord showed you about himself or taught you about yourself on this trip? How would you answer that?
I think the Lord really taught me to trust in Him through this trip. I'll say weeks before, even when I learned that we were applying for the trip, I'll be honest, I was not excited. I was scared. It was something very new and unknown to me, and when we arrived on our very long bus ride to our team house, I felt this peace that I hadn't expected to feel. I had prepared to feel nervous and scared for the week ahead, but we all took each day one step at a time, and I ended up having an amazing time and had conversations, met people, and made memories that I wouldn't have made without the Lord's love and grace over us for the week.
Something the Lord taught me during the trip and that I just really walked away with is honestly just a healthy conviction and reverence for the Lord. And actually, Eric mentioned the passage as well in Matthew 25, and my husband did a Devo during the trip on Matthew 25. Just the command of loving the least of these like Jesus did. I just really kind of came back with a really strong conviction of that. I think coming back to the U.S., you can kind of like go about it one of two ways. You can almost feel guilty for the privilege that we have and kind of be like, God, like, why am I in Wheaton and have all these things? And almost kind of, I feel like Satan can kind of use that guilt, or kind of just responding of like, whoa, Lord, you have blessed me with so much. How can I use the gifts that you have given us to love the least of these like you did? Because I don't know, I was just very convicted, like Jesus, it's not a gray area on how to love the needy or the poor or the hungry. He's very black and white that it's a command we need to. And I was just very convicted of how to do that. And even like, I love the accountability of like how I can do that within the church body of going to these communities and loving the least of these, because they're our neighbors. They're right around the corner. But it's hard to kind of see that when you're just so focused on your own life. So it was a good, healthy conviction that I had.
Yeah, and just so you know, our hope here at Hope Fellowship is that this trip wouldn't just be a good memory for the 19 of us who went, but that this might be the beginning of some short-term trips that we do, that we'd have a bigger heart for who God is and what He's doing around the world, but then also that it would impact us here locally. And as Aaron said, we want to be we've been thinking through as elders way before this trip of how do we reach even neighborhoods close by, very low-income neighborhoods, outreach community centers here. How do we be the hands and feet of Christ right here in this area, whether you live in Lombard or Villa Park or Wheaton or Chicago? The command, as Aaron said, is for all of us to love those who are poor, marginalized, and be the hands and feet of Christ. So our hope is that this will just be a spark that lights a fire within us to grow in this area of mercy ministry and spreading the gospel to those who aren't like us. So my final question would be, what would you say to somebody if we do another trip, or like thinking like, I would never do what some of these people did? What would you say to someone in that situation? Any of you can share on that one. Yeah.
There's nothing like serving with the body of the church body. I was just extremely impacted, really going on the trip and seeing how we're all the hands and feet, and we all have different giftings, and it really just magnified God's power and how He works not just with one person, but with a team together, and it was an invaluable experience, and just having the faith to step out. I mean, seeing all the families with kids, even encourage Quinn and I, like, man, even when we have kids one day, like, I want to be going on a mission trip, and it's hard. Like, I'm sure it took so much faith on the parents' part, but seeing then the kids serve too was just profound, and just it takes faith, but it was so worth it.
And one of the things, just to encourage you, the national staff, the missionaries said the fact that kids were there and they got to see families together was a great encouragement to the Dominican believers there. And so far from having kids be a hindrance, they were a great asset for our witness to this group. And we'll say even Blake, our little guy, he was kind of like the team mascot almost. You know, he kept us laughing and full of entertainment. So if you're thinking like, hey, I got to wait till my kids are, in high school, that's not necessarily the case.
I would just say that there's kind of a caricature of heaven where it's like fluffy and light and lofty and angels and harps and things like that. C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Great Divorce, and part of the picture of that is painting this idea that these heavenly spiritual things are actually really like the heavy and the dense things. They're like the most real things. And I felt like I had a sense of that while we were away. Just some of the times with National Christians and some of the conversations, they just felt like heavy, not in a burdensome way, but in a substantial way. And so that was just really significant for me. And I think if anybody craving like community and connection, like Aaron said, there's no substitute for time together and serving together. Like a 6-hour bus ride, for example, right? It makes memories. And I also want to say that a missions trip is not the only way to do that, right? I don't want you to sit on the sidelines and wait for that, but it is a great like accelerator in terms of service and unity. It was just a really sweet time.
Yeah. Well, we are blessed to have been able to go, and we hope that in future years, some of you will be up here sharing what God did in and through you as you stepped out in faith as well.